You're listening to The Power Project, and I'm your host, Brené. It's my goal each week to inspire and empower you with stories of women that are leading purpose-filled lives and owning their God-given power. Now, this month is all dedicated to love. It is the month of love. We have heard what your guys love about you. We have heard beautiful love stories, and we are focused on all the love this month. So we're not going to leave any stone unturned. Today, we are going to jump into the subject of self-love. Now, that's kind of like a hot topic button in the social media world. What does it mean to you? Are you thinking body love, image love, attitude love, spiritual love? Well, let's just jump right in and get started, shall we? So when I had the idea for this week's podcast, I really didn't know where I was going to steer this or guide this. And I wanted to make sure that I stay true to my platform, which is that as a Christian woman. But I know self-love, I know self-worth, but I hadn't ever really researched it in the manner that I did in preparing for this podcast. So the definition of self-love is regard for one's own well-being and happiness, chiefly considered as a desirable rather than narcissistic characteristic. That is what a quick Google search will pull up for you if you say, what is the definition of self-love? But I wanted to take it a step further, and I thought, what does our Christian community say about self-love and self-worth? And I kind of fell down a bit of a rabbit hole. And so, that whole, if it's on Google, it's true. Well, I got to reading and I found some people that are on the scale of the self-love movement, and we love everything about ourselves, and we embrace our inadequacies and our iniquities, and we love every single part of ourselves. And then there's other people on the other side of the argument that want to tell you how self-love is completely narcissistic and self-serving and non-biblical and non-Christian. And it's crazy to me that you can have something that in my mind is just so simple and elementary that can be so twisted and corrupted. And people with opinions, those opinions, they make life interesting, to say the least. But I don't think we have to be so divided on this subject. I do know that I wanted to see what the Bible specifically says about self-love, because the Bible talks about love a lot. And of course, Mark 12:30 says that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And then you have Mark 12:31 that says, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. And so I found it kind of interesting that we're commanded to love God and we're commanded to love our neighbor, but we're not commanded to love ourselves. We're commanded to love our neighbor as ourselves. So it got me thinking, isn't it kind of interesting that this is implied that it's an innate characteristic that we love ourselves? So this is just my personal opinion. You guys know I am no preacher, but I do enjoy digging into these ideas and kind of looking at them. Because if it's implied that it's an innate characteristic, it makes you think that I don't know of a young child that doesn't really love themselves. Let's think about it. Are we born loving ourselves, and then somewhere along the way, our society or the people around us strip that from us? Think about it. Think about your earliest memories when you were a kid. And I always talk about this in the realm of confidence, because I always say you don't have to teach a young kid to be confident. They have the confidence. And that goes hand in hand with the self-love, I personally believe. So What young child do you know that is raised in a healthy, loving environment that doesn't truly love themselves? They'll show you how fast they can run, and they're convinced that they're the fastest person ever. I know I've watched my kids when they were little. They were just convinced they were so fast and they could run so fast, and they always wanted you to see it. And they wanted you to watch them. Mommy, watch me do this. And they want you to see their drawings, and their drawing is the best drawing that they've ever done. That's, it's a Van Gogh. It's beautiful. It's an amazing piece of artwork. And they'll sing as loud as they can at the top of their lungs and never question whether or not they have a great voice. It's just almost that we're born with this innate sense of self-love. Just like confidence. Before anyone tells you that you can't do something, you have this innate trait that believes that you can do anything you set your mind to. So these young children, they love themselves. And then they'll love you in that same manner, just as they love themselves openly and honestly. So it makes me wonder, if God is love and God lives in us and we're created in his image, shouldn't it be natural that we love ourselves? Maybe it is. Maybe the lack of self-love and lack of self-worth just comes over time as we grow and it becomes different. So maybe you struggle with self-love. I know that this is something that we see in social media. We see it in blog posts. You've got the moms with no makeup and looking haggard and tired, and, with the blog post about how they love themselves and their life, and it's okay that they, look the way they do. Or the moms with the stretch marks, or the women whose bodies are not quite the size that they want to be. So there is this whole movement of loving yourself where you are and how you are. And I'm not really talking about the physical aspect. I'm really talking about more of a deeper connection, more of a connection with yourself, and in turn a connection with God, because that is where self-love stems from, in my opinion. I think you can go read about it. You can go pull a Bible out and find out about it. But, as we grow from that young child that loved themselves, that innately loved themselves, maybe somewhere along the way, someone told you that you're not worthy or you're not lovable. Maybe somewhere along the way, someone told you that a good Christian woman needs to be self-sacrificing and, not braggy in order to bring glory to God. And that translated into not loving yourself. And you can disagree with me or you can agree with me. It won't hurt my feelings either way. This just happens to be my podcast, so you get to hear my opinion. But I was raised that I could be strong and I could be self-confident and I could love myself and I could know my worth, and that was God had created me that way, and that it was okay if I embraced that about myself. And I understand that not everyone was raised that way, and I'm sorry, and that's exactly why we're here today having this conversation on this platform, because, I do think that it is important to be self-sacrificing. It is important to love others, love your neighbors, do for your family, serve others, 100%. But I don't believe that forgetting ourselves and not remembering to love ourselves is part of that plan or part of God's plan. And so as I fell down this rabbit hole of the opinions on the internet, I found, these people that were saying how narcissistic it was and how you couldn't truly love yourself or have self-love if you loved God and you were following his will. And I found myself becoming irritated because serving the population of women that I do, I am a firm believer in self-love. I think it is crucial to your development as a human being on the face of this planet. I think it is crucial to your pursuit of God's purpose for you in life. I think it's crucial for you to follow God's will. I think that He created you, and you seeing yourself the way that God does is a key factor in you following His will in life. And so I just think it's simply loving yourself as the way that He created you and seeing yourself through His eyes. It's really, so I work with trafficking survivors. I'm in that realm, and so much of their restoration and healing process is teaching them about a relationship with God, but also helping them to see themselves through His eyes, helping them to know their value, know their self-worth, helping them to love themselves the way that He loves them. So I would be really happy to go toe-to-toe with anyone out there that wants to devalue self-love. And I also see this in the coaching that I do with women, in the training that I do with women, that the self-love is typically their missing factor. They may be running in circles, taking care of their kids and taking care of others and serving others, but they're just not having that full-on walk with God that they want. And they're not having that pursuit of their purpose that they want. And so often it's because they're forgetting about themselves. They're leaving themselves off the list. And they're not taking time to make sure that they have that inner relationship going on with God and themselves in order to love themselves and say, hey, God, thanks for creating me in all of your glory. And I think that looks like coming from a place where you have a clear view of accepting yourself as who you are. And from that, it comes from owning your weaknesses as well as your strengths. If you know where you fall short, without beating yourself up, you can improve in those areas. But if you know your strengths and you love your strengths that God uniquely gave to you, you can thank Him for those strengths and use them to bring glory to Him. I think it really looks like knowing that your identity is created in God and that He is where your value and your worth lie. Just like those little children, we have to openly and honestly know our worth. We can't look to others for validation. We have to look to Him and in turn look internally. And so I think that this is super relevant in the aspect of talking about relationships and marriage. Because so often people tend to look for the validation and the worth from their partner. And since this has been the month of love and we've really primarily dedicated it to relationships and marriage, I really want to talk about the necessity of self-love in regards to a relationship. Because I am a firm believer that you have to be able to love yourself before you're able to truly, openly, and honestly love someone else. I think it's the main reason that young love and young relationships and getting married at a younger age is so difficult, because we don't really truly know how to love ourselves at that point. I think that, and I'm speaking from the women, from the voice of the women, the side of the women, because this is our platform, right? We're a podcast for women by women. But we get caught up in the teenage romance and, the romance novels and the movies and even the shows that my kids watch. It's all wrapped up in this dramatic sense of your value and self-worth being wrapped up in someone else. We can cue the whole Jerry Maguire, you complete me scene right now. You can hear it like the music is playing like sound gardens in your ears right now, and you can hear you complete me. And we all thought it was beautiful back then. But guess what, you guys? It is sending the wrong message. The right partner should not complete you. The right partner should complement you. A healthy love should complement you. And you might be thinking, what do you even possibly mean by that? Well, because you should be able to love yourself in a manner to where that you don't need that validation from someone else. You should be able to know your worth and your love, and you should be able to say, it's okay to say that I love myself the way I am, and I love you, but if you're unable to give love to me, I'm okay. This is where you keep from falling apart, just because that person may be incapable of loving you the way that they need to love you. But if you love yourself enough, that person can compliment you instead of completing you. I hope that this is making sense to you guys at home. I just think that when you know your worth and when you know your self-love, you can have that much stronger of a relationship, because then you can love that person where they're at without needing them to validate you. And, I've had a couple of instances where I've had conversations with girls that have reached out, that they really have a desire to speak into other women, and they have a desire to have a blog, and they have a desire to have a podcast, and they're really wanting to share some insight with the world. And the crazy thing is that a couple of them have been single girls that have told me that they don't know how to share their story or influence people when they're single, when they're not married and they don't have kids. And how crazy is that, you guys? Because that is their story. That is where God has placed them. And they can love themselves where they're at and influence others and share their story and share their walk with others, regardless of being part of a couple or being part of a family. They can be uniquely and beautifully made right there where they're at and share with others and inspire others. And so I think that some other conversations I've had have been people that try to accept their weaknesses that we talked about earlier and love themselves in those places. Like, how do they turn a weakness into something that they don't dislike about themselves anymore? So just a tiny example here. For those of you that have been with me from the beginning, you're going to remember that I have always disliked my voice. I actually use the word hated my voice for years. It's just one of those things that I would put down about myself, and I would speak negatively about it, and I could not stand hearing my voice on a recording. But then I felt this call to start the podcast, and I put this podcast off for months, something like 9 months, because I was terrified of having my voice broadcast for the entire world to hear. But in all honesty, it wasn't the world that I was worried about. It was me, because I was really the only person that had a problem with my voice. And guess what? 24 episodes later, I don't actually hate my voice anymore. I'm grateful for it. It's shining a light on dark spots in the world. It's spotlighting people that are doing really great things. It's encouraging people that need encouragement. And it's sharing stories of God's work being carried out in everyday life. And get this, you guys, I actually kind of like the sound of my own voice now. For the first time in close to 37 years, which makes me feel like I am loving myself a little more and thanking God for creating me this way. So I just really, that comes back to the whole confidence thing that I talk about, where you can't teach confidence. Confidence only comes with a willingness to try something over and over. So if you have something you really dislike about yourself, the ability to practice it more might actually open yourself to not disliking it as much and actually finding a little bit of a place of love for it. And, the thing about that is that when you truly fall deeper in love with God, you learn to love yourself more. The more you trust Him and you follow His will, the more valuable you're going to start to see yourself. So it all goes hand in hand. And then one day you look up and you're like, oh, I don't really hate my voice anymore. It's so delightful. This episode is brought to you by Brené Beauty. Have you tried the #1 skincare brand in all of North America? Well, if not, today is your day. Head over to the-powerproject.com, click on Powerful Beauty, and take a 30-second skincare consultation to see what products are recommended for your skin concerns. Email yourself those results, and then I will personally mail you a thank you gift for your time. That's thepowerproject.com, Powerful Beauty. Okay, so now that we know all about self-love and what people say about it, what people believe about it, and what I personally think about it, what are some tangible steps to loving yourself, accepting yourself, knowing your value, and knowing your worth? So I have 10 steps that I personally believe in adamantly, and I think that I need to share them with you. So number 1 is going to be know who you are. So know your personality. Like, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you an ambivert? Know what drives you. Know what makes you the way that you are. And dig into what your love language is. There are all kinds of tests on the internet that you can go research and find the answers to these questions. So I personally, my love language is physical touch. Since I was a baby, love holding earlobes and playing with earlobes. And anyone that knows me well knows that if I love you, I'm going to play with your earlobe. So my parents, my grandparents, my husband, my kids, my best friends know that I love just holding an earlobe. And if there's no one else around, I'm going to hold my own earlobe. I also love having my back rubbed. I love rubbing someone else's back. So know what makes you tick. Know what really soothes you and what makes you feel loved, because when you know these things, it's easier to love yourself because you accept yourself for that. And then in that same area, knowing whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or an ambivert. Do you even know what an ambivert is? Like, it's a person that's a little bit of a mix between an introvert and an extrovert. But this is going to help you know what situations you're comfortable in and how to stretch yourself when you're in a position that you're maybe not comfortable with. It's also going to help you accept and love yourself exactly where you are at. So if you're an introvert, that is okay. You don't have to feel guilty or try to make yourself become an extrovert. Now, on the same train of thought, know your strengths and celebrate them. This is step number 2. So if you know that you are really great with one-on-one conversations, or you know you're really great with going deep in a relationship, or you know you're great with comforting someone, heck, it may even be that you know you make the best dang apple pie anybody's ever tasted. These are your strengths, and you should celebrate them. That's going to help you get one step closer to loving yourself where you are at. So you don't have to compare yourself to someone else and what they do, because you have your own unique gifts that God has gifted to you and only you, and you should celebrate them every single day. If you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you are killing it at story time with your kids or baking time with your kids. Or maybe you happen to be an amazing wife that listens really well to your husband. Maybe you're great at crafting or great at painting. Whatever your strength is, go celebrate it and love yourself a little more for that strength. So the third step in loving yourself is to know your passion. Know what drives you, what stirs your heart, because a lot of times that passion that you have, other people can have the same passion, but it can be just a little different. So you can have a passion to feed the hungry, or a passion to help people realize their worth and their value in life, or a passion to help those without a voice gain a voice. Maybe you have a passion for working on old vehicles. And that makes me laugh because this is a podcast for women, but that happens to be something that my husband really enjoys. Whatever it is, find that and do more of that, because that is something that is attached to your internal drive and your sense of well-being and peace. So find that, tap into that, do more of that. I know that like in this day and age, I'm not trying to tap into the whole like, if it feels good, do it mentality, because I think that is part of the problem with our society, but I'm not going to get on that soapbox. However, I will say if it's something that drives you and it's something you're passionate about, I think you should do more of it, and I think you should look into it. So the fourth step in loving yourself is to also know your weaknesses. Embrace them and then work to overcome them. So do you struggle with organization? And I throw that one out there first because as a type A OCD person who has been organized all her life, that is a struggle that I have at this point. Do you struggle with following up with people? Do you struggle with adapting in a social situation? Do you struggle with intimacy? Do you struggle with authenticity? What are your weaknesses? Where do you not meet the highest bar that you could be meeting? Look at that, study that, and find a way to get better at it. Because when you embrace your weaknesses and you realize that your weaknesses don't define you, but they're actually obstacles that you can turn into opportunity, you're going to find a little more love for yourself. You're going to learn how to show yourself grace and how to love yourself, even if you accept the fact that, look, I suck at running. I am probably never going to be a runner. I won't say I can't run, because I firmly believe you can do anything you set your mind to, and I have 2 healthy legs. However, one of my weaknesses in life is that I'm not really a good runner. I can walk. You want to go walk 20 miles? I'm your girl. You want me to run 1 mile? I'm only going to do that if someone's chasing me. But that's okay. I love myself in spite of that, and I'm not going to compare myself to someone else that runs a marathon. I'm going to be proud of them for running the marathon, but I'm okay that I am not that person. Know your weaknesses, embrace them, and then work to overcome them. So then the fifth thing I've already talked about in the first thing, because I got a little overzealous, but it is knowing your love language. Why is it important? This is going to help you to know what makes you tick, right? So mine's physical touch, right? We've already covered that. What is your love language? What makes you tick? Are you an acts of service person? Are you a over-the-top surprise type of person? What makes you tick? What is your love language that is unique to you? And then love that about yourself, because God created you that way. Number 6 is do not talk down to yourself or beat yourself up for what you consider failures or inadequacies. This goes into the physical realm. It goes into the mental realm, the emotional realm, the business realm, the realm as a wife, the realm as a mother, the realm as a friend. We women are so guilty of this, so guilty. Like, oh, I could have done better today. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have eaten this. I should look like this. I shouldn't look like that. You don't get to talk down to yourself or beat yourself up for these things. We can accept that we have weaknesses and struggles without beating ourselves up for them. So if you don't like something about yourself, work to change it. Just do not shine a negative light on it. That is not part of self-love. And accepting yourself the way you are and realizing that you need to work to change something is not part of loving yourself. It is not part of self-love. So the next step is going to be praying that God can help you see yourself as He sees you. So He sees you uniquely and marvelously made. So once you can see yourself through God's eyes, once you can give yourself grace for your inadequacies and your weaknesses, and you can see yourself as a beautiful, unique individual, you're going to learn to love yourself a little more. And the next one, number 8, is going to tie into this. Surround yourself with a circle that will lift you up. Surround yourself with a circle of people that see you similar to the way that God sees you. So, not to have a circle of people that don't tell you the truth, not to have a circle of people that just fluff, but the people that are true and honest and authentic and open with you, and they love themselves and they know their self-worth, and they can see you and they can say, I see your weaknesses, I see your inadequacies, but I also see your strengths, and I love you and I celebrate you. Those are the kind of people that you need to be around. That is going to help you love yourself even more. You don't need to be around the ones that bring you down. You need to be around the ones that lift you up, that build you up in an open, honest manner. And the last step is going to be personal development. There is, I swear to you, the best, easiest way to loving yourself is to really, truly, authentically discovering yourself. And you discover yourself through personal development. Reading books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences, praying, searching your Bible, digging deeper to become the best version of yourself. Because after all, if you can become the you that you would fall in love with, you're going to eventually fall in love with yourself.
I'm a firm believer of being a student of whatever subject you're trying to get better at, and that comes with reading and personal development. So one book that I believe will help you love yourself a little more and be kinder to yourself is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. And another is Radical Self-Love by Gayla Darling. I will put the notes in the show notes for both of those books. And then there are other books that in turn help us to love ourselves by also teaching us to love those around us.
One of my favorites right now is Everybody Always by Bob Goff, and he talks about loving others, which in turn helps us learn to love ourselves. And if you guys have any questions about podcast, books, personal development conferences, anything that I can send you a reference for, I would love to help you out with that. Once again, we have had a great podcast episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I do. I love talking about love, as you guys have learned. And as always, if you like what you heard today and you would like to hear more of this, just do us a favor. Go over to iTunes, write a review, subscribe, get crazy, and share it on all forms of social media. Because listen, we can only keep bringing you these episodes and this free content if you keep sharing and people keep listening. As always, you guys, I love you, and I cannot wait to talk with you next week.